that.
Isn't that nuts? And then
That's great.
married 16 years, almost this year. October will be 16. And I chased the baseball journey. That was my dream since 5 years old. So I chased that up until literally 25. I always said they're gonna have to take the uniform off me for me to stop
Yeah.
playing. And they did. They released me, which is the kind way of saying fired in
Yeah.
baseball. So they fired me, and real life happened fast. Like I had just gotten married, and then we got pregnant with our first child, and I was still trying to finish my degree, so I had no job.
Yeah.
I was a sole provider without any income, which was not a great
Yeah.
start to my real life. Um, but eventually, through a series of intros and connections, I landed into the financial planning, wealth management world, which I really went kind of it was kicking and screaming, but through a lot of prayer, I just felt like I'm supposed to do this, and here I am, like 2 years into launching my own firm within the industry I didn't think I was supposed to be in,
Fantastic.
and it feels like a calling more than a career at this point too. So
Yeah.
that's
I
the
love that.
abbreviated couple decade version of me.
Yeah. I love that. So you've been doing it for like 20 years now, but you just launched your own firm.
I've been doing this for about a decade because in between baseball and this, I was in finance staffing. So I did that for about
Okay.
4.5 years. So that was very,
Okay.
very entrepreneurial, where it was like it was sales, pure sales driven. It was like
Yeah.
100 cold calls a day, 8 to 12
Wow.
in-person meetings a week. And it was just like, that's the hamster wheel you don't get off of for
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So how was it when you started the firm? Like, were you nervous to start your own thing? Did you feel like what called you to do your own firm? A lot of times I think entrepreneurs say, well, I see this is being done or this. So I want to do things a little bit different and I want to be able. So I'm curious in this industry.
Yeah, I had always wanted to do my own thing. I would say
Yeah.
that. So I was an entrepreneur concentration at Northeastern where I went to college, business major, but like I concentrated on entrepreneurship, partly because I was like, I'm not really sure what I want to do. And this teaches me a little bit of all business, but also
Hmm.
because I always knew it about myself that I'm a bit of a maverick where it's like I kind of struggle to take direction if it's not for a
Yeah.
really good purpose. And so entrepreneurship felt like it fit my wiring pretty well. But because I chased the baseball dream, and that was really me chasing after my vision,
I think, yeah.
um, and eventually 20 years into it, it crashed and burned. Like eventually
Yeah.
it crashed and burned. And I said to myself then, I was like, I just want to make every decision pretty prayerfully from now on. Like I want to be the passenger of my life. I don't want to drive
Yeah.
this bus anymore.
Yeah.
And and for that reason, I didn't want to launch a firm until I felt like I was being called to launch it. Even though I
Yeah.
wanted to, I had a desire to be an
Yeah.
entrepreneur from like day zero, you know? And it wasn't until I guess maybe 6 or 7 years into doing it where I felt like, okay, now's the time. I feel like I'm being called to launch sort of thing. And yes, finally, long-winded way to answer your question, it was scary, but I told you that whole backstory because I was like, because for me, if I had not been prayerful and I didn't feel like I was called into it, then I would have felt like I'm leading the charge. And man, anytime I feel like I'm going out like in
Uh-huh.
no man's land alone, I feel that would have been really, really scary. For me, it was
Yeah.
just like there's just a great unknown because if I go onto my own, I had 7 kids at the time, and they all depended on my income to eat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if clients don't come with me, I don't really know what I'm gonna do. You know,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
that fear. I mean, that's real. That was in there. It was, I guess, the confidence from the decision overrode the fear
Yeah.
of what if, because I knew like it's supposed to happen. I don't know how it's going to work out, but it's supposed to. So here we go. And so I just went and burned the boat sort
Yeah.
of thing and went for it.
Oh, I think that's awesome. I have such a passion for entrepreneurship that like I've actually never had a job. Actually, I
That's
mean,
awesome.
maybe like a little bit here and there, in college and
Yeah,
things like that. But yeah, it's just that I have such a passion for entrepreneurship. And really the entrepreneur is like my actual passion, is the heart of the leader. And it's interesting
I
because
love
sometimes
that.
God works in like really weird ways. And so My first company was like a cleaning company, and I started hiring some stay-at-home moms. I loved that. I loved like it was a little
Oh, that's cool.
ministry, and
Yeah.
so that was cool. And then I opened a mechanic shop actually with my husband at the time, and
Come
so
on.
that was very different, because I'm going from like one way of marketing to another,
Yeah.
and so that was scary because that was all of our eggs in one basket, really. So um that was nerve-wracking, but it was weird because I had such a peace and a confidence, like this is like what we should be doing.
Cool.
And so it actually was really cool. And then through that, it just I all I did was marketing for these companies. And so
Oh,
then
cool.
I actually met with a business broker and he's like, you should start a marketing agency. And I'm like, okay. And I went home that night. And I mean, I just did it. And but through all of that, the agency's been open, I think almost 8 or 9 years. But
Wow.
through that, the Lord's really shown me like, hey, the marketing and the agencies is there. That's, what but also like this is a vehicle to like my people, the people that you're serving, other entrepreneurs. And so it's
Yes.
been cool to see like, okay, like what does that look like, and so I know God's calling me to do some different things, and so to step out, it's encouraging to
Mm.
hear you say something because you're like, I think this is what God's telling me to do, but is it? It's
Yeah,
a
right.
little scary, to
Yeah.
kind of go out on your own. I've done that 3 other times, but in a totally different area.
Yep. Totally.
So yeah, so I love that story. Now, does your wife, she's home with the kids and homeschools?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like it wasn't like, all right, it's okay, you go get a job and we'll be fine. Like that wasn't an
Yeah,
option when
I get that.
going out
I
to
get
do our
that.
own thing.
So what was she nervous? Was she more nervous about the transition, or was she obviously she was supportive, but was she more nervous than you were, or what did that look like? Because I feel like entrepreneurs have a different brain. The
Yeah,
way our brains work, like it drives my husband crazy. The way, I'm like a
really.
visionary thinking, these things, and he's like, wait, what? How are you going to make that happen? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm
Right.
just going to do it. So I didn't know if your wife is kind of similar too or not.
She she's a dreamer too. I
Yeah.
would say, like you said, yes, she was supportive, and without her support, like I don't know what I would
Oh
have
yeah.
done.
Oh yeah.
Um, but the honest truth is she was ready for me before I was ready. And like
Oh,
she
that's
knew
awesome.
like I'm not gonna step between you and God in that conversation. I want you to go do your own thing.
Oh,
And I remember when I told her, I'm like, I feel like in my quiet time, like I feel like I'm supposed to be jumping off and doing my own thing. And her response was, "Well, finally." And that was it. I was like, "Why do you say that?" She's like, "I just knew. I've been waiting for you to do it. I just knew it was supposed to happen. I just didn't know when." And so for her
yeah.
to say that, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Like this is all I needed to hear." And so she was
Yeah.
super supportive. She was probably less fearful than I was because she was ready
That's
for so
incredible.
long for it to happen that she was
Yeah.
like, this is supposed to be our path. And
Yeah.
I've sort of been waiting for you to
To
do the
kind of get
thing.
on
Like,
board or whatever.
quit
Yeah.
dragging,
Yeah.
like, she's like, quit dragging your feet. And I'm like, I wasn't dragging my feet. I was just waiting to hear from the Lord. She's like, well, I
No,
heard from
that's
years
awesome.
ago.
I know. I love what God does. There's like some confirmations along the way where it's like, okay, like I call them God hugs where I'm like, am I
Yeah.
doing this or not? And then like, I try to like keep my eyes open, like, all right, Lord, like I'll just see. And all of a sudden I like experience Jesus. I'm like, oh, that's such a God hug. Like I
Yeah.
just feel like we're
Yeah.
right here. Yeah, I call them God hugs all the
I've
time.
heard
And
him
it's
called
like,
God winks before, but it's the same idea. I love it.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So how old are your kids?
It's
Like what are the
14. The
range?
14 is the oldest, and the youngest is 4 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I have
That's
twins in there
awesome.
too. I got 11-year-old twins.
Ah,
Um, it's wild. Yeah. 8 kids, and I mean, basically it was 14 years, 8 kids is how it worked out.
yeah, that's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
So as you've been like doing your own thing, is there anything that you decided like when I open my own firm, here are some like really specific like principles that like I'm not going to waver from regardless of what other firms might be doing?
You mean as compared to the industry or just my own
Yeah.
personal values? Yeah, as compared to the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few. The one the obvious industry one is how I invest. I invest for people and I help them build plans to sort of invest the money according to the plan to try to, yeah, I say to try to
Sure.
fuel your calling, to try to work toward
Yeah.
where you feel like you're called to. Um, I do that differently than a lot of, not all, but almost all advisors, and because I do it using individual stocks. So what happens is, generally speaking, in my world, you go to a financial advisor and they talk to you about all the things. They ask you a bunch of questions and then sort of take the money that they're going to invest for you and shuffle it off to like different funds around
Yeah.
the country, and the funds have fund managers who do the buying and selling. Well,
Mhm.
I don't shuffle it anywhere. I'm kind of the buck stops here sort of thing. Like I'm the one that either makes or loses you money, and
Yeah.
I do it by buying individual companies. So that's pretty different. So
Yeah.
it takes almost like an entrepreneurial wiring to like that, which I like because
Yeah.
there's like 300,000 something advisors in the country. So like there's a good
Right.
one for everybody.
Yeah.
So I want the ones who want a different way to manage their money
Yeah.
because their whole life resembles walking a different path. So
Yeah.
that tends to like really play well with people that I think best qualified to serve because it just lines up with their wiring. They're like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
how I do everything else. So yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Um, I would say the other piece that I really, really focus on that I don't hear a ton of advisors focus on is the is why we're building the wealth. I named the firm Reconstructing Wealth
Hmm.
because I'm case study number one. Like my
Yeah.
my life has dramatically changed as my relationship with money has changed. So like as I've
Hmm.
reconstructed my relationship with my money and learned how to emotionally detach from it, I'm a better husband because I'm more present and I'm less like thinking about the things in the background that I didn't get done or need to get done. Same with my kids, and I have a clearer vision and I worry less about the how. And there's so much that I could say about how I'm a better husband, father, provider, leader, partner, business partner than when I was so anxious about my money. Unknowingly
Yeah.
sometimes and knowingly sometimes.
Yeah.
So really, like, my goal is to reconstruct people's relationships with money. So
I love
I
that.
don't hear people talk
I
about
love
that,
that.
and
No.
and people don't come to me for to be transparent. At least until maybe my marketing, my branding needs to. When it gets better, maybe they will come to me for that. But today they don't come to me because they're like, "Hey, I think I have an unhealthy money relationship." Like the same way people don't go to the Jenny Craigs of the world or these weight loss groups of the world
Right.
to say like, "I think I emotionally eat at night and I need to work on that."
Right.
They're like, "I got a wedding
Right.
next month and I need to lose 10 pounds. Like, how do I do that?" So
Yeah.
they come to me with these financial situations that they're like, I've got this going on in my life and I want to make sure I'm not screwing this up. I need some help, all the things. But eventually I've learned over those conversations over time, like I'm trying to infiltrate inside their hearts and change them from
Mhm.
the inside out. So that
Yeah.
happens over time. And I think that's my calling. Like I just want to change the way a generation views and uses money.
Yeah.
That's my big purpose, my big mission.
I love that. I actually was just in a meeting with a couple of people yesterday morning, and we were actually talking about like stewarding our money.
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like? And practical ways, individually, like pray about it. What is God putting on your heart? But practically, what does that look like? The Bible talks about give me, your first crop. So like, okay, what is a first crop? What does that look like? And it looks different for everybody.
Hmm.
And so we were kind of challenging one another in that. And we kind of ended up, as I was talking to them, it's like, well, okay, why do people start a business? And typically it's, well, I can do this service really well and I want to make more money. I'd make more money doing this, for whatever reason. And there's always typically just good intentions, right? I just want to provide for my family and make more money. But there's a slow creep that seems to happen for most business owners where all of a sudden money becomes all that we're caring about. And then we start really, I think, kind of waving off into, you know, going against really what our vision, our mission, our why was. And
Yep.
because it just becomes just this money obsession. And so and it's like the business becomes our identity. So when money's low, sales are low, all of a sudden, guess what? Our identity is really bad. And then when it's good, it's good. And it's interesting. It's like this really, it happened to me too, like numerous times in owning businesses where my heart was pure, but slowly over time it's this slow creep that it comes in, and all of a sudden it's like you're signing clients when you know maybe you're not the best fit for them or whatever the case may be because you just see dollar signs.
Mm,
It it really I meet with so many business owners and it's always the same conversation. It's always about money, right?
yep,
That's why they want to hire an agency. I
right,
want more marketing, more visibility so I can get more money. And that's all fine. That makes sense.
yep.
But when it becomes our identity in our heart, you're right. That's where you come in and it's fantastic because the heart is the problem. The
Mm,
money's not really, it's the heart.
you
And we
got
just
it.
become obsessed with it. So I love that you do that. I think it's fantastic and very different than most financial planners. Honestly, even just asking someone what their why is, you don't usually get that,
Huh?
with a financial advisor. You don't get a why do you want to do this? Normally it's, oh, I want to just save for retirement. But it's like, I like that you're like honestly like stewarding like relationships with the people you're serving, where you're like,
Yeah.
I want to know your heart. Where are you at? Uh, that's not done. It's just all about making more money.
Right. And in my world, I think wrongfully making more money for our own storehouses, like build our own wealth,
Mhm.
protect ourselves first. Um, and I just think biblically that's backwards, but also
Yeah.
living that out that doesn't work well either because it really leads to a path of unfulfillment, if you ask me. Like
Yeah.
if your why is about you, you will be unfulfilled. I don't care how big
Yes.
the goal is. And I can say that because for 20 years or a little less, but I chased the dream of playing professional baseball and I got it. I
Mm.
was drafted. I was getting a paycheck with the Kansas City Royals emblem on it. Like I didn't, it was a small paycheck because of the minor leagues, but I got to where I set the
Yeah.
goal. And that's a long pursuit, decade and a half pursuit. If I go from
Mm.
15 to 22 when I was drafted, or 5 to 22 when I was drafted, five, I wrote in my preschool yearbook, I want to be a professional baseball player when I grow
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And I never stopped chasing it. And drafted by the Royals in 21 or 22 years old. And then, and I look at that and I was like, when I got drafted, I was thrilled and over the moon for like
Mm.
36 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's like that new mountaintop or that mountaintop I just hit gave me a new vantage point for all the other mountains. And it's like, well, time to climb the next one. I
Yeah.
did not feel fulfilled. And the reason was I was A, chasing my dream, not God's dream for me, but also B, like it was very self-serving. Like I get drafted because I want to for me. Like, well,
Mm.
it's lonely there when you're by yourself. So I always tell
Yeah.
people like I want to build out a we, not me financial plan. I want your why to be a who because I want you to live a life of fulfillment and calling. So
Yeah.
when we're putting these dollars to work in these different investment strategies or whatever we're doing, like who's it for? Not why are we doing it,
Mm.
and it's not going to be for us. We got part of it for us, but like, what's the calling? What's the purpose? Who are you trying to help with this? What are we doing this
Right.
for? More for
Right.
more's sake doesn't help you. It doesn't make you feel good either. Because if you just
Oh yeah.
chase a bigger bank account, then there's never an end. You're just
Oh, you hear people all the time, like famous people, they have so much money. And it's like, okay, well, you must be just so happy. And I've heard so many interviews of them like, no, I'm actually miserable. I have
miserable.
everything I could ever want and I'm miserable, and it's like, okay, well, and that's what people are reaching for. Know what you said that I thought was so interesting is you're like, I was chasing my own dream. And
Hmm.
so we all do that, like, this is what I want to do. And I'm, in my head, like, I am just can be tunnel vision almost, so
Yep.
it's all I see. I'm going to go after it and I'm going to probably succeed at getting it, whether it's where I'm supposed to be or not, probably,
Hmm.
figure out. But what I think is interesting is that I think that really Jesus is such a gentleman that he says, okay, you can, I'll give you this. And then it's like, you said, you get up here and it's like, this isn't exactly what I was expecting necessarily.
Nope.
And it's like, God's like, but it's not like, oh, I'm not going to let you do these things. Like, I just feel like God, like, is like a gentleman, like, yeah, you could do that. That's
Yeah.
okay. But I'm going to use that. And so this isn't the end of it. This is a stepping stone for where I have you. And every time I think I'm at the next stepping stone, I'm like, okay, I've made it. I'm here. And then I feel like God's like, No, actually, there's something different, but I
Yeah.
like that. I like that God gives us the 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 freedom to be able to say, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to choose this. But he kind of just continues to woo us back to him where we're like, okay, I might have gone on my own. I didn't do anything wrong, but I'm kind of ready to listen now.
Yeah. That I love
You
that.
know?
I agree with you. Yeah. I feel like he can lead us through valleys or over mountaintops, and it's both for the same purpose. Is like
Mm,
to recognize that your eyes need to be fixed on him, and your heart has to be aligned with his, because on either point of that curve, the top or the bottom, neither feel as good or as bad as you wanted them to be, or you thought they would be, and you realize
yeah.
there's an after for both of them, and if both of and you realize like when you're in those, man, the best way to get out of them is to go think about somebody else and stop in the
Yeah.
valley, stop worrying about yourself. On the mountaintop, stop thinking so highly of yourself, right? Like
Hmm.
those are
Yeah.
both
I
the
think
ways to get out of those.
I honestly like just through my own like faults, mistakes, choosing my own way, like whatever that may be in my life of like entrepreneurship, it's like I have such a passion for it, but man, has God ever used that in my life to reveal my heart? And
Mm,
for me to be able to say, oh, okay, that is kind of ugly in there, like I got to
yeah.
kind of work on that because it's such a slippery slope. It's like you're doing all these things, and then it's like I forget my employees or contractors that are working for me, and it's like, those are the people that God put right in front of me to like
Yes.
walk alongside of, and I should be shoulder to shoulder with them, right? And I'm not because I'm too busy doing all these things. Um, it's like I think a lot of people don't know, but business owners don't realize that like the word business owner becomes a status, an identity. And so then it screws up the way that we actually want to be doing life, right?
You
Christian
got it.
business owner, nobody's going to go in and say, well, I'm just going to ignore all the people that are in front of me. I'm going to just take all the
Right.
money and make it, that's never the goal. And so
No.
when it becomes slippery like that, it's like, oh, like we got to look at the heart. And like that is like my passion is like the heart of the leader of whatever organization or business, because I have walked through so many deep waters because of my own doing, where I took that status and said, this is
Yeah.
my business. I'll do what I want. And guess what? It might work for a little bit, but it doesn't work for a long time. And I've learned that so many times. And I keep praying, God, just take my business, right? I'll just go get a job somewhere. I just want to do this. And the Lord's like, I'm using your business, right? To
Right.
literally make you more like me. And that has been hard for me to recognize that my business actually, yeah, the Lord uses it to provide for my family and do those things, but it is truly used to tether me to Jesus.
That's so
Because,
cool.
yeah, because otherwise, like, I'm not tethered. I'm going to do whatever I want with I know that about myself.
Wow. That's so cool. Um, what you're describing in there, it reminds me of how I explain with people about their money, but especially the role of business owner is the
Yeah.
difference between success and significance. And I
Yes.
really think like a lot of people get lost chasing the success of business and forget the significance is the goal. To me, success is huge profit margins, big numbers, like great. That's
Yep.
success, but the significance is the opportunity to change lives with that wealth. And if
Right.
you
Right.
forget that you're in it for life change and life transformation, then you live a successful life, but an insignificant one. And I don't know about you, but I want the people in my life that know me best to love me the most, you know?
Yeah.
And oftentimes the super successful but kind of insignificant people, the people closest to them are not the ones that love them the most. They have the worst to say about the people because they know their
Yeah.
hearts most truly.
Yes. Right. Yeah. I I was just talking to someone like last week. I'm like, it really just starts at home.
Yeah.
So, it's near impossible for me too. I have 5 kids. We're a blended family. That can be chaotic in itself.
Sure.
Um, and I can be really quick to just, I've got tunnel vision.
Hmm.
I don't, my kids are at their dad's. I don't need to do, I can just work and work and do all this stuff. And then it's like, well, I'm so focused on the people in my work or contractors. And then I think Well, no, it has to, that's just biblical. It has to start at home.
Yeah.
I need to be ministering to people at my home. The way I manage my money, the way I manage my life, those things have to start at home. And then it goes into my workplace. And, so if it's ugly here, it's going to be ugly there.
Mm.
So many business owners obviously bring stuff home. I can do that too, where I'm just like stressed out or, I just don't think that's what God calls us. I don't think that the stereotype of an entrepreneur or business owner in today's world is at all what God calls it to be. I,
Mm.
I
What do you
think
mean?
that I think that owning a business, being an entrepreneur, God gave those gifts to entrepreneurs, because there are some people like in the book E-Myth Revisited where there's managers and there's technicians. Everybody has a different way their brain works and
Yeah.
functions. And so God gives entrepreneurs a brain where there's visionary and there's all of these different things that are encompassed in that. But I think that honestly, it gets so screwed up in today's world because the stereotypical is I'm busy, I'm an entrepreneur, I don't sleep, I do this, I'm striving for success, I want
Yeah.
influence, I want all of these things, especially like the influence thing. Everybody wants to become something online.
Right.
And that's, all okay in itself. But I think that when it gets down to nitty gritty and that becomes our identity, that becomes what drives us, we're missing what God had. I think that we own a
Mhm.
business, and to me, that shouldn't be any different than I work somewhere. It's just your place that you work. That's
Mm.
all it should really be. God just gave us a different brain, and so we're in a leadership role. And so how are we taking care of that role?
Yeah. How are you
Well,
stewarding
you're
the
a leader
responsibilities?
anywhere. Oh yeah. Your wife's like a mega leader, right?
Oh,
She
yeah.
homeschools, she's got 8 kids. Oh, she's a leader.
Yeah.
Anybody that's looking up to you or looking to you, you're a leader. So pretty much anyone in the world is a leader. Yeah, you
Mm.
coach Little League, you're a leader. You do this. So I think that the responsibility is the exact same as a business owner, but for some reason in today's world, that's a status, whereas
Yeah.
Little League coach isn't. And it shouldn't because you're still leading.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I think back to that success and significance thing. I think too many people are chasing the status symbol. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more.
Yeah. And it's sad because God wants us to prosper and he wants us to, but the Bible says, like, let me see what you do with little before I give you much. And
Yeah.
I think that, you know, some people will say, well, how does this person so successful and, they're not a Christian or it's like, that's not really our business. To be
Right.
honest with you, it's not our business and God's going to use their business or someone in their life at some point and maybe they'll learn I just think that people are so busy chasing something that like God isn't asking us to do. He's literally asking
Gosh.
us to go to work, steward our time, steward our money,
So
be
good.
obedient in what he calls us to do, and that's it. Life should be really simple, but for some reason we make everything confusing. We
Yeah.
make everything way bigger than it needs to be.
Yes. I
So
think
I think it's a slippery slope.
I love what you're saying. What I'm hearing is what I would describe to people is as living a life of full surrender means
Yes.
that you fully surrender all areas, not just the areas that you're okay giving up, you know?
Yes.
And because of the
Yes.
world I live in, money is so sensitive to people
Oh.
that that's a hard one for people to fully surrender. They may communicate, no, it's all God's, it's God's money, but their behaviors and their actions dictate a different story
Right.
where
Right.
you're not really fully surrendered with that money, the way that you're reacting and responding to it.
Right.
If you're truly surrendered, then you are passenger princess of your life, and wherever the
Yeah.
driver's taking you, the driver's taking
Yeah.
you. You don't have a say in it. So you
Yeah.
don't get to be upset about a turn being the wrong turn in your mind if
And
you're not
yeah,
if you're surrendered to it.
right. I think that's like kind of where things get like a little hazy for like entrepreneurs because, if my brain just was like task oriented, where it's like, this is what I'm doing, I'm not, but I'm always thinking outside the box. I hardly ever think inside the box, truly. And it's
Awesome.
actually kind of annoying sometimes because I'm like, just focus on like what's manageable. But I'm always like, oh, in 10 years, whatever, even raising kids, I'm like, I don't want them to do that because in 20 years, they're going to. But like, I think God gifts people different capacities and ways of thinking. And I think it's like a beautiful thing. The problem is that we take it and run with it. And I don't think that's what God wants us to do.
Mm,
I think He wants us to come back, like you're saying, and continue to surrender. I've got all of these ideas, and all I want to do is run and go do all of them. And I know that I could probably figure it out, but is this what you have me? And I have been
yeah.
and was walking through this for like 6 months where I literally just sat at Jesus' feet. And it is not what I want to do. My brain wanted to move and do
Yeah.
something about
That's great.
the business. And yeah, and it's hard because I'm like, okay, just what's next? And it was like months and months. And
Ooh.
I know it's the Lord because, yeah, because you're just waiting and you're like, I know that you're calling me to do this, but I don't know the right step. And I don't want
Mhm.
to take the wrong one after what I've gone through. I want to. And so what's like kind of cool is I actually somehow was able to sit still long enough to really just surrender. But
Great.
that was not me. That was Jesus and the peace that I felt. I sometimes you go through things that are really hard and it stinks in the midst of it, but you come out of it and you almost miss it. You're like, there was like a really sweet, tender
Mm,
quietness of that season I was in where I didn't know what I was doing and things were hard,
yeah.
and then you kind of look back and you're like, I really liked that time with the Lord and where I was able to grow in these areas.
That's really good. I have
Yeah.
this framework of decision making and just sort of like wrestling with big life decisions, and often I teach it to people as it relates to money because typically it's about the
Mm.
money and not about the money because the money
Yeah.
fuels all of the decisions. But I just had this conversation, I don't know, last week or the week before with a couple different people, and there were variations of the same convo, which is like, I'm running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I don't know which direction I'm supposed to be going in, but some seem to work, some don't work. Then they flip flop, and I'm not really sure. And I feel like I want this in my life, but I'm here, and I want to be there. And like
Yeah.
noisy,
Ah,
the
yeah.
entrepreneurial brain. And
Yeah.
and I often say first step in any decision making, like you have to have an awareness of the problem or the situation. If you don't know you have a problem, you can't solve it, right? So first get an awareness.
Right.
But these people had an awareness. So then my next question, and one was a Christian, one was not. My next question was like, have you spent time in quiet, like just
Mhm.
silence? And that's a really weird question coming from your financial advisor because the combo was about
Yes.
like, can we make the numbers work to go do this thing? And
Right.
like I told you before, I'm after a heart change. So I was like, why are we doing this thing? And they're like, what do you mean why? I'm like, well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, I don't know what your beliefs are, if you're Christian or you believe in something bigger, like everybody that I admire that is successful in the way I would define it, where like the front stage and the backstage both love the person. They're good on both
Hmm.
stages of life. They all, most of them are Christian in my world, but like others that aren't, all recognize that there's a bigger purpose behind life than there's them
Oh,
achieving
yeah.
their success. But all of them will have to sit in some quiet. And when you do that, whether it's prayer or for them it was meditation or running or a shower or a cold plunge or whatever it is, like you will feel this tug on your heart to do something. Like you will be called
Oh,
and pulled in a direction. And I
yeah.
said, only until then, and you feel that direction, should you start running and should we figure out how to
Mhm.
line up the dollars. But until you're
Yeah.
there, then I think we're just like throwing money at ideas, and that's not going to be helpful for you. So the assignment was like, why don't you go sit in some quiet, see if you're getting pulled in any direction, and then we'll come back and we'll figure out how to make the dollars work.
I love it.
Is that a
I
wild
love it
combo?
so much. I know, but I love that because like that's not what you normally get with people. And honestly, money is like truly like the root of all evil. So like
Mm,
the fact that you can take that and, honestly put a twist on it and say, "Hey, like let's look at the heart before we just start jumping on, all of the financial portion." I
yep,
think it's fantastic. I mean, I really love that, especially in today's world. I just think that, well, one, everything's so expensive, like
yep,
we're paying a ton of money for everything. People are nervous about money, and you're able to actually just like get quiet, go knee to knee with them and say, hey, like, let's just like walk through this together because well, a lot of people don't like to see a financial advisor. They like it because they
Yep.
have a lot of money, or they don't because they're like nervous. Like, what does this look like? And
Yep.
so you're able to actually just really just be Jesus to them and say, hey, like, let's look at
Mm.
your heart before we just start crunching numbers here. And I think I
Oof.
love that.
Thanks
I
for
love that.
that.
I think it's fantastic. I do, because it's such a problem.
Mm.
It's such a problem for pretty much everybody. Um, but money, it just causes so many issues,
So many.
and so many, especially internally, the anxiety you feel, or what people will do to get more money and the whole goal is honestly security. I chase security most of my entrepreneurship life, just you just
Wow.
chasing it and chasing it and chasing it, and guess what? I hit it. I reached it. I did all of these things, and then I missed the mark, and then and it's like it wasn't any better on the top than it is where I am now,
Right.
knowing that my heart isn't so yucky feeling. But I do know that I have a tendency for that, where I'm like, I got to really be mindful of my heart when, I'm making a lot of money or whatever that looks like, because, well, our hearts are kind of all gross and yucky.
Mm. Man,
They really are.
you're saying two things that reminds me two different things, and it's so good what you're saying. What one thing that as you're speaking, it's the hill I'm going to die on. I think like I'm going to redefine financial freedom for people is,
Yeah.
having the unique vantage point I have of having had thousands of conversations with people about their money, seeing plenty of people who, by definition of financial freedom today, which is have enough money invested that it can fund your entire life and you don't
Hmm.
have to work. Work is optional. That's
Yeah.
financial freedom by
Yeah.
definition. Yet I know them and I work with them and they're not free because they're anxious all the time. The market's down
Yeah.
and they're like, what's happening with my money?
Yes.
Am I going to be okay? And I'm like, that can't be freedom. That's not
Yeah.
true freedom. So for me, financial freedom is going to me, the definition is emotionally detaching from your money. Learning to emotionally detach from money is true financial freedom. And that doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's because you have a boatload of money in the bank. That could
Yeah.
just be because you've understood the game of money and you start to learn the mechanics of it. And now it's like a chess piece on a chessboard. It's less anxious and anxiety inducing and more strategic thinking. And I think like once
Mm.
you can get there and emotionally detach, that's a game changer.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I completely agree.
because the second part of the love of money is the root of all evil is what, as you were talking about it, like that. Well, anyway, that I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking here, but that to me is, it's just, it's a game changer when you can start to understand where your heart's at, right? And your heart
Right.
alignment and what it's aligned with. And when you realize like I'm aligned with God, well, I'm aligned with Jesus and I'm chasing comfort and security, yet he lived the most uncomfortable, most insecure life of any. And if he's my leader, why then should I feel like my life is one of security and comfort?
Right.
Because he's calling me outside of the boat constantly in life. That is leadership. And when I do that, he shows up. And if I don't do that, I'm in control of my own life because I understand the outcomes of every decision I make. So where's God need to show up for that? So
Right.
I recognize like chasing security, chasing comfort is actually walking from Jesus, not toward him. So I'm like, if I'm gonna follow Jesus, I better live a life of discomfort and get pretty comfortable in it.
Yeah. No, I have made big mistakes when it comes to that stuff, because that is what, and if I could have just stopped myself and looked around at what was going on in my life, I would have
Yeah.
been able to probably identify, okay, I'm making some of these choices because I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm not trusting Jesus, even though I know he brought me here. I'm not trusting him. But you know what? I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah, it's
And
like
you
the
know what?
Israelites.
Yeah, you do your own thing, and it's
Yep.
like, okay, that was good for a year, 2 years, however long, and then all of a sudden, and we serve a God who will get our attention, and he's kind, but he will get our attention. And
Yeah.
my dad's always said to me and my brother, like growing up, like, just pass the test, just pass whatever's kind of going on. You know what I mean? Look around, figure out, where's my heart in this,
Wow.
and then be able to pass the test. And so I've been good sometimes. And sometimes I'm like, why in the world did I do that in my business or make this decision or
Good.
raise prices when I don't agree with that? Or, I've done that so many times where I'm like really nervous about money. So you just all of a sudden you raise your prices to what standard is, because I knew I was below
Okay.
market
Yeah.
value. So I raise it to what's normal. That doesn't sit well in my heart because for
Hmm.
some reason but I do it because I'm nervous. And all of a sudden I get a client or two and I think, oh my gosh, Ashley, take your prices back to where you feel is, correct for you.
Yep.
Below market, that's okay. But it's like I've done that so many times and I'm always doing it because I'm chasing some security. Well, if I do this, then
Mm.
I'll feel better. Um, I mean, there's just been years and years of just things that I've gone through, and it's all rooted in security. And
Hmm.
I kind of wonder sometimes, does Jesus make some people have entrepreneurial minds who strive for security because they're not going to have it a whole lot if they're a business owner? I sometimes
Mm.
I think, you know, you walk through different things as a business owner. It all falls on us, right? We got to
Yeah.
pay the bills, keep employees, all these things. So I do kind of wonder sometimes, okay, the Lord's like, you know what? I'm going to give you a brain that's going to be outside the box. You're going to be able to do some things, but it's because these are some areas that I know that you need to, be more like me in. And
Mm.
that's been hard for me to recognize. And I think most entrepreneurs wouldn't admit it to themselves. I don't think that, I mean, it took me, I don't know how long, 15 years to be able to say, I think I'm an entrepreneur because God needs to renovate my heart.
Wow.
you know and this is how he's going to do it because I'm so stubborn,
Yeah.
that he's going to use the one thing that I want, which is security. He's going to give me this business. It's going to look great, but man, has he used it in my life, and I'm thankful for it.
That's
um
awesome.
but it never comes easy.
That's awesome. Yeah, he gave you that business, which is so insecure to to basically hold a mirror up to say you're dependent on me, not on the
Yeah.
business.
Oh, without question. Oh,
That's
without
great.
question. I think God
That's
brought,
great.
brought me to that place to say, yeah, you're not going to do this on your own. So, I'm going to bring you to a place where you have to. And again, like I said, for years, I still did what I wanted. And now the Lord's like, okay, I'm going to tether you
That's
and you're going to stay really close. And I like that because I'm like,
great.
I want to do what's right, but it's hard. It's being in a leadership role for anybody. It should be challenging. If
Yeah.
it's not challenging, then you're not listening.
Well said. Yes.
That's what I think. I think if you're not challenged and everything you think is going great and it's all on your hands and things are going great, pat on my back, things are going bad, Ashley, start moving and running and figuring it out. We're missing the mark. That's not what God's using that for.
You're right. That's not surrender. That's not
Right.
believing he's in charge.
Right. Right. And we don't want to surrender. So we just want to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's just human nature. I mean, out of all my kids, I could say, all the kids are like that too. It's ingrained in us.
Right.
It's ingrained that we're going to do what we're going to do, and pretty much be a 2x4 learner. You got to get hit in the head with a 2x4. And then we're like, oh,
I
yeah,
never
I got it.
never
Yeah.
heard
Okay. I
that
got
term.
it.
That's really
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. I think most people are 2x4 learners,
Two by
because
four learner. That's
two
pretty
by
good.
four.
I've never heard that.
Oh, well, it's so good talking to you. I love this.
Yeah,
I'd
thank
like
you
to
for
keep
this. It's so cool.
conversation going because this is I truly love what your business is doing.
Aw, thank
I
you for
do.
that.
I think it's fantastic and it's needed. And I wish more financial planners did that. I, I
Mm,
think it would I think it would really change the way that people start looking at money,
yep.
start sharing money, start the way they're generous or not.
Yep.
I I think it would be different if people looked at their heart before their bank account.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. Well, that's my mission. So
I
I
love it. I
appreciate you
love
saying
it.
that. Thanks for
That's
this.
awesome. That's awesome. I'm gonna pray for you before we hang up.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for Matt and just being able to really just get to know him, Lord. I feel like it just was such a designed opportunity by you for us to meet online And so I just pray over his business, Lord. I pray over him and his wife and their kids. And I pray that you would just continue to um, show Matt where you have him, the people that he's working with, Lord. I pray that you just give him wisdom and the right words to say, Lord, and encouragement. I thank you for his wife being a supporter. That's such a
Hmm.
huge deal. Um, just for any business owner to have a really supportive spouse, Lord. And so I just thank you for her. I thank you for the way she stewards her time with all of their kids and homeschooling them, Lord. And that doesn't go unnoticed, Lord, in so many aspects. That's so much harder than running a business.
Hmm.
And so I just thank you for her and their marriage, Lord. I pray that you bless them. I pray that you bless Matt's business, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Oh, thank you for
Awesome.
that. That was cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't get to
yeah,
finish too many podcasts of prayers, so like that was
yeah.
really cool. And as I
That's
was hearing you pray, and thank you for the prayer, it was perfect.
yeah.
I was really feeling like I'm on my heart. The Holy Spirit just really wanted me to tell you that you're doing great. You know, like
Really?
release the
Thank you.
insecurities, whatever that might mean for you. I
Okay.
just really felt like release the insecurity. She's doing great. Like you're doing good, great work. So whatever that
Okay.
is, that
Thank
was
you.
really impressed on my heart as you were praying. So thanks.
I really appreciate you saying that actually, because the enemy has been really at play lately. So I actually really
Really
appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah,
cool.
I do. Thank you. Well,
Well,
let's
this has
keep
been
in
awesome.
touch.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Ashley.
Okay.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.